Hey, and a very warm welcome to the Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna Hunter, metaphysical teacher, spiritual life and business coach, published author, and the high priestess of the LightWeb, a spiritual technology that will change your life. This is the place to be to talk everything under the LightWeb, from consciousness, relationships, to money, to spiritual business, and everything in between. Hi, it's Joanna Hunter here for another episode of Into the LightWeb podcast with me, your hostess, Joanna. And today I am joined with a special guest for my gift edition. Hello, this is Elysia. Come and say hi, Elysia, and come and introduce yourself and tell people what it is that you do in the world.
Hi, I'm excited to sit down and talk to you today, Joanna. So I am a multidimensional healer, teacher, mentor, and I created a modality that I call Sacred Soul Alignment. My most favorite focus that I have in the work that I do is teaching. So I have a certification program. I have certified about 600 people from all over the world, creating a big ripple effect with the healing work that I do and that I pass on to my practitioners.
Oh, I love it. That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about creating a healing model. How did that come about? I kind of want to hear the story of this. This sounds juicy.
Yeah, well, it was pretty juicy when it happened. So I have been a healer for a while. I've been on a pretty intense path for the last dozen years or so. And I got certified. When I first got started, I was getting certified in all these different modalities. I started with theta healing, got certified to be a practitioner, then got certified to be an instructor. I was gathering all these modalities and becoming instructors of a few. And so I was used to teaching, I was used to working with energy, and I was in a particularly difficult period of time. I was in the middle of a painful breakup, and I took my youngest daughter to go hiking up in Mount Rainier here in Washington State. I live near Seattle. And we were hiking amongst all of these old growth trees, these, hundreds of years old, beautiful trees. And all of a sudden I felt this energy coming through, and I knew how to recognize energy. I knew what was going on. And so I was guided to just go and sit at the base of one of these trees with my back to the tree, sort of soaking up that energy that was coming through. And I heard the words in my mind. I heard the words wisdom of the trees. And that was the first sacred soul alignment that I ever received. And shortly after that, my youngest daughter and I moved to Maui. I had never been to Hawaii, but I was very, very, very strongly guided, and I was resistant to the idea, but the universe had other ideas and really pushed me in that direction. And when we moved to Maui, all of a sudden, all of these energies started coming in. I would get woken up in the middle of the night. I would be, in different sacred places on the island, and I would just receive these energies, and they were alignments. And I was, at that same time, some of my clients started asking me, why don't you teach? I want to know what you're doing. I want to be able to use this work. It's so fast, it's so transformational, but it's so gentle. So I put together my first class. I was going to just teach one client and sort of create the class with her, but word got out and people started asking me, I want to join. And so I handpicked very carefully 8 people that I wanted to be involved in the creation of this, and took them through. I think there was 54 alignments at that time, and turned right around and taught my first class after that. There was 54 people in that next class, and it's grown, from that to now I have over 450 alignments that I've created, which I call they're energy packets. They contain multiple different frequencies. They contain instructions for dissolving limiting belief programming and patterns and trauma and trapped emotions that we're all holding on to. Yeah, so it's been a journey, and it's a wild ride, but I'm happy to be on.
Oh, that is amazing. I love that. I kind of really want to hear that wisdom of the trees now, because I was just sitting there. I could just imagine you sitting there with the trees and just receiving in that wisdom. That's amazing, incredible. Um, and we've been working together as well. So we've been doing some coaching together and working together. And you're just about to launch. I'm saying we, but it's you. You're just about to launch a kind of the next level, the next frequency of this in a way, really, isn't it? And that's really exciting. And it's really bringing it into that next level, the next vision for this, which is really really big. Tell us a little bit about your clients and the shifts that some of your clients have gone through, because I feel like that's a story all unto itself, really.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many people over the years, and now I don't so much work with clients. I'll take a couple of mentorship clients every year and spend the whole year with them. But I used to do a lot of one-off sessions. And I mean, I've seen things from people coming to me for a package. This one client of mine came to me for a package of 3 sessions. She had been struggling with suicidal thoughts her entire life from childhood. She had a very, very traumatic childhood. And after our first session together, those thoughts were gone completely. By the end of 3 sessions, the depression was gone, the anxiety was gone. And this was a few years ago, actually. And she ended up coming through my certification program because she wanted to be able to use this with her people. And I think it's probably been 3 or 4 years now, and the thoughts and the feelings have never come back for her. So that was pretty impactful to me.
That is incredible. And I know myself from doing healing work as well. I mean, there's nothing quite like that feeling when somebody is telling you that years of a pattern of energy that has been with them for such a long time. And they're almost at that stage where they're just like, well, this is life now, isn't it? It's just this, I'm always going to have this. And then, you do this energy work and you work with energy, and then it shifts for that person. And they're like, I can't believe it, I
Yeah.
can't believe that it's like I never ever thought I would see a life without this pattern or without this energy. And there they are, not only seeing a life with that, but starting to build and thrive and wanting to be certified in the
Yeah.
modality as well. Have you always been spiritual, or did
Mhm.
you come into it later on in life? When did you start to kind of know that there was something more to the energy?
Yeah, that's also that's a very dramatic story for me in my life personally. I was raised in an evangelical Christian home. The most amazing parents ever. They were hippie Christians, but I was raised with all that religious programming. And then when I became an adult, I got married really young. I was 19 when I got married, and my husband was in the same belief system. And I sort of even got even more entrenched in it through my 20s and 30s. And in a very dramatic combination of events, when I was 38, I basically lost my entire faith in everything that I had believed my whole entire life. It was many different things that happened that were what I call the perfect storm of awakening. And it was like the bottom fell out from under me, and I had to seek to find out what it was that I actually believed. I ended up taking my daughters and moving to a different state. We moved to Bend, Oregon for 5 years, and one of the main reasons why I did that was to get away from everybody in my life who was telling me what to believe. and including people on both ends of the spectrum, my family, the church that I was in, and then also my best friend who had also left a religion, and was on this new age path, and she was telling me, the other end of the spectrum, and I wanted to find out for myself. And so we moved away, sort of so I could recreate myself. And I would go to the library, and I probably read every single book in the 158 Dewey Decimal System of the library, seeking for, I was devouring all these different schools of thought. And I landed on sort of my own mishmash of all of it, but had a very potent spiritual awakening in that time. And I spent those 5 years. My husband had passed away before we moved to Bend, and I was fortunate to be able to stay home still with my daughters. And I spent those 5 years just devouring everything I could get my hands on that was in the spiritual realm, and doing deep, deep healing work on myself and on my daughters, and realized that I wanted to do this work in the world with other people. I had been helped so much by healers along my path, and I wanted to do that for other people. And so then I started getting trained in modalities. But I was 38 when I really had that awakening. I mean, I've always known that there's more. I always had a really, really strong connection with Jesus. That has not gone away, but it took a different form, I guess.
I love that. I love that. Let's talk about Jesus, actually, because I think there is this feeling in this sort of new age world, if you like, you gotta pick a side. And I really don't agree with that. I just feel like, take comfort where you can get it. Like, if that works for you, that works for you. And it's about finding your own equilibrium of your own, I suppose, in a way, your own style of religious thought and beliefs. And I have a lot of clients that I've actually ended up counseling. Maybe they're a medium, but they're also very religious. And then they're like, does God want me to be a medium? That's something that I've been asked that a lot. And I'm like, the way that I see it is that if God made you this way and you have this ability, I don't really believe that the divine made a mistake. And if we call that divine source, or if we call that divine God, for me, it matters not, and but how have you traversed this? Because I feel like it's almost like sometimes, in certain circles, it's like, don't mention Jesus, don't mention God, but yet they say that they're really spiritual. And I'm thinking, well, God and Jesus are really spiritual as well. And I think, well, why can't it be everything? Why do we have to pick and choose?
Yeah, I don't think we have to pick and choose. I think there's just so many different forms of the divine, and it's what resonates. A lot of times it's cultural, what resonates. Although I also feel a very strong connection to a lot of Hindu and Buddhist energies, and what's divine to them. And in my personal life, I do a lot of mantra chanting. That's something that helps me connect really strongly to the divine, which is within all of us, right?
Yes.
And these different beings, Jesus, Buddha, whoever you're connecting with.
I see them as ascended masters.
Yes.
They are people who kind of really, really nailed connecting with the divine.
Yeah.
On earth, and they left a legacy of light for the rest of us to connect with.
Yeah.
And leaving even more light on this planet. I feel like that's part of my agenda. That's what I would love to know, that I left more light than I came with,
Yes.
on the planet afterwards, and we leave these things for future generations and stuff. And I when I see people like Buddha even Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, you've got Jesus, Mary Magdalene, just to name a few, Kuan Yin. These to me are ascended masters that have left legacies of light, pathways to follow. And Buddha's pathway might not be your pathway, but maybe the pathway of Mary Magdalene speaks to your soul, and then therefore that is going to help to illuminate your path.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of these ascended masters show up in my healing work or show up in the creation of what I'm creating to pass on to my practitioners. And it's across the board. It's very it's not just Christian, ascended masters. It's definitely, I work very closely with Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I do have a particular affinity for them, but Kuan Yin often shows up. Different schools of thought, beings in different schools of thought will show up for me. And I think that helps me really be able to resonate with a wider audience, because I have practitioners that are, in my Sacred Soul Alignment family that are Christians. I have many practitioners that are Hindu, that are Buddhist, that are Wiccan, many different.
I love this. I love
Yeah.
this. I remember the very, very first time I ever went to spiritualist church, and what impressed me so much was that we were all there in the praise of the divine, but everybody was still practicing their own form of religion. So I was sitting next to a woman who was Catholic, and on the other side of me was a lady who was Christian, and in front of me was a Muslim person, and it was really pretty much every faith was represented there, from pagans, Wiccans and it was really lovely to just be in a room where the agenda was actually love and not anything else. And I thought, God, this is what religion should be about. Instead of, for me personally, I've experienced a lot of judgment and things like that. And so it was so beautiful, the first time I came, and for me, it just had this feeling of coming home, and I thought, this is what I want to kind of practice, is where I'm not really fussy what you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
That we're here for the love, really. We're here for the love, and for the love of the spirit, and for the love of the universe and God, and however you want to describe that, but that thing that is bigger than us. And I think it's such a powerful and potent thing that when we can come together as human beings and forget our differences and come together in that, it's such a healing aspect. I remember sitting in that church for that very, very first time and just feeling healed by being there.
Mm-hmm. And I think when we can see those different points of view and those different belief systems and embrace all of that, it really expands our horizons. And I feel like we can hold even so much more love when we do that, versus so many religions. You got to stay within your own people. You've got to, you can't look at any outside beliefs. When I was growing up, it was frowned upon if we were to explore other, ideas, other ways of thinking, because there was a lot of fear that, well, what if you actually believe that, and then you leave our little group here. So when we can look at other people's points of view and embrace them, there's just so much more opportunity for love there.
Yes. I love that you said, there was this fear that if you look at that other religions, and I think right there in a nutshell, we have it. When there's fear in religion, it eventually pollutes the sacredness of the word. Whereas when there isn't that fear, there is so much more opportunity for love.
Absolutely. And fear is how a lot of people are controlled. And that's not coming from God. That's the opposite of what's coming from God. That's coming from people who want to control other people. And when we can step outside of that and realize it's all just love, like you said.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So tell us, what are your plans for going forward? Because we've been working together and
Yes.
working on shifting how you're presenting everything that you're sharing with the world and your magic that you're sharing with the world and the gifts that you're sharing with the world. Tell us a little bit about what is coming next from you.
Well, I'm so excited about this, and working with you has been such a beautiful, magical experience so far. You talk a lot about how you hold codes, and when people connect with you, you pass those codes on, and I love that because I feel like that's what's happening with so many of us who are leaders and teachers in this space. But it is so true. After our first session together, I felt like, all right, I could even be done now, and I'd be happy with all of this.
That's so
Thankfully, we have
beautiful.
much more to go, but you've just sparked something in me that has resulted in a reconfiguration of how I'm presenting sacred soul alignment to the world, and I'm really excited about this new way of bringing people into the family, basically. I called my practitioners my Sacred Soul Alignment family. And that was really, just on a little rambling side note, that was shown to me a year ago, when I almost died. I had a really freak thing happen in a surgery, and I was bleeding internally, and it's a big story. But my practitioners were the ones who really actually surrounded me and sent me meals. My house was filled with flowers, and 90% of the flowers in my home were from my practitioners who are, sending me flowers from all over the world. It was
Incredible.
amazing. So they're my family. They truly are. We are each other's family. But I have a new way of bringing people into this family. So previously, I have offered a 12-week certification. You come in, people have told me that it's like a fire hose of information when they come in, because it's just so much. And so I have redesigned this along with your guidance, which is amazing. People are going to come in to a much gentler experience, and it's going to be just for you. So when you come into Sacred Soul Alignment, your first entry will
The
be for
self-healing.
you.
So
Yes.
important.
So that you'll still receive alignments. They're going to receive 84 alignments that they'll get attuned to, but they'll be to use for yourself. And there's going to be a lot of healing within the class, because what ends up happening when we get exposed to something new, especially something that's really powerful, a lot of times people go into a healing crisis because all their stuff is coming up, and their soul knows, okay, I have something now that I can resolve this stuff, and so it begins bringing all of our stuff up, and that can be very
I
uncomfortable.
always say that in the LightWeb program that I teach, just like, do not fire your boss, do not leave your partner, do not make big life decisions while you're going through this
Yes,
program. Let the dust settle after the program, and then we'll see what's what. Because everything comes up, and suddenly you just kind of want to tear it all down.
that's so true. That's so true. Yes, that's happened for people that have been coming through my program. People, at the other end of it, they create this magnificent new life, but there can
Oh,
be
it's
some turmoil
incredible.
there,
Yes.
and it's
And as it all
difficult.
comes up, it's like a little
Yeah,
mini explosion
it
of
is.
shifts and changes, and and it is a lot, and it's going to be so lovely that with the sacred soul alignment, what's going to be so lovely is that people are going to be able to go through that shift personally first, breathe, let the dust settle, and then get their certification to be able to do this for others.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can be a difficult space to be in, to be going through all those personal changes and learning a whole new modality at the same time. So this is going to really deepen the work that people do when they step into the certification. And some people will just come through because they just want the healing and they want these tools to use for themselves to create a better life for themselves. But I just know that a lot of people are going to be also coming into the certification, and the certification will allow them to do this work with other people out there in the world. They can use this as a professional healer. Maybe they're adding to their existing toolbox, or maybe they want to do this work as their profession. They're stepping out of a job and want something that they can, make a living at and make a good living at. And so I'll give them all of those steps and those things that they need to be able to do that. So I already have been incorporating a little bit of business training with the modality, but I'm going to add to that even more for the certification. And they will get, I think in the certification, they'll get an additional around 150 alignments. So that's almost 250 between the the self-healing and the certification. Yeah.
What's amazing is I just feel that your sacred soul alignment has literally just become roomier, and that people can really breathe in the journey rather than it being that fire hose and everyone's like, oh my God, what just happened? Now they can work on themselves, breathe, start to work with others, breathe. And then if they want to take it to that next level, they can get the rest of those alignments.
Yeah, I'm excited about level 3. So the current way that sacred soul alignment exists is level 1 certification and then the advanced class, which contains a lot of alignments. But level 3 will now exist, and that's I'm going to be passing on what I call my energetic apothecary, which is crystal alignments, herbal alignments, which I co-created with my oldest daughter, who's an herbalist. She helped me pick and choose those. Yeah, she's amazing also. Flower essence and essential oil. So that's about 100 alignments right there. And those are really fun because we get to kind of be an alchemist when we're working with those. And the level 3 is going to be kind of a hybrid of a class and a mentorship. So that's going to be for people who are really serious about this work and really want to deepen their practice with this work for themselves and their clients.
I love that. And what I really love about this is if they've gone through that whole process with you, they've literally also not only have they healed themselves at a deep inner level, but they have literally kind of uncovered a business in a box as well, that they can start helping other people. And I feel like a lot of people, when we're drawn to this type of work anyway, we sort of end up in it anyway.
Yeah.
Because we start off on our own healing journey and healing ourselves. And before we knew it, we're like you said, I wanted to do this healing for other people. And I was exactly the same. I went through a healing journey, and then I came out the other side and I was like, totally want to do this for other people. And I think that's a testament to the law of attraction works very, very well. Like energy attracts like energy. And when you're healed, you just kind of want to give that healing out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most important work that we can ever do is healing work for ourselves. And like you say, all healing is self-healing. And so when we're doing this with other people, we're doing it for ourselves too. Yes. Even more than what we can imagine, I think.
Yeah. I think it's the power of energy, isn't it? And it's like when we one of the things that I say within my LightWeb community, when we do the LightWeb healings, I say, I always thank everybody that comes on those calls, because I said, you are now a walking portal. Yes. And you hold those codes now, and somebody might, just be standing next to you in the supermarket, a complete stranger, but a little bit of energy transfers, and maybe they were stuck in an area of their lives, and maybe we'd done, the week previous, we'd done the motherhood wound or something like that. And the woman next to you in the supermarket, you don't know her from Adam, but she believes that her relationship with her mum is never going to heal. And there you are, a walking portal, transmitting this code that healing is possible. And that the woman next to you, don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to say anything. You just have to be in your being. And the woman next to you picks up a piece of that code, and suddenly her mind shifts just a millimeter, but it's enough for something else to open into her frequency. And maybe she thinks, well, maybe I could heal my relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
That's the start of something. And so I always thank everybody that comes on the LightWeb healings, because we do become these walking portals. What we heal in ourselves, we give an opportunity to the world to heal in themselves too.
Yeah, and we will not ever know all of those people whose lives we
The
touch
ripple
just by
effect.
transmitting out. Yeah, and we're all always transmitting energy. But what I find so fascinating is that when we are transmitting those higher forms of energy, those higher states, we actually have the ability to transmit that out farther than we do when we're in the energy of anger or grief, because those energies are so dense,
Yes.
they're not expanding
Well,
out.
they're like implosive. And when the
Yes.
energies are high vibe, they literally force out the way. They even increase the size of the aura. I mean, that can be
Yeah.
scientifically measured. So yes, you're absolutely right. Of course, it just when we transmit these higher vibrational frequencies, it's a light for the entire world.
It is. And I've read a statistic, I think it was in a book by Dr. David Hawkins, and he has that vibrational scale. And I'm not exactly sure how they landed on this number, but if one person is vibrating at the level of joy, and that's a pretty high level, there's
Yeah,
probably not a whole lot of people that are consistently vibrating at the level of joy, although there's
that's right.
more and more and more every day, right? Because we're expanding so much as a human collective right now. But one person who's vibrating consistently at the level of joy has an effect on 750,000 other people.
That's right. Yeah.
It's
It's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah.
Somebody that's vibrating at the frequency of love, which on that scale is 500, and the scale is out of a possible 1,000.
Right.
Somebody's vibrating on that on love. They're affecting 10,000 people just by them being them. And then we go, then it goes to love or above. So above love, we have joy, peace, and then enlightenment. Enlightenment goes from 700 to 1,000. At the moment on the planet, in enlightenment, we only actually have about 12 people who are vibrating in those frequencies. And we were talking, it was so funny because we really come full spiral in this conversation, because we were talking about ascended masters and Jesus and Buddha and Kuan Yin. These are people who would have calibrated at extremely high frequencies. And look how long they've been left the planet, and we're still talking about them. We're still
Yeah.
talking about the light that they were able to generate on this planet. They're still synonymous with goodness. They're still synonymous with love, and that is that legacy of light. And I love Dr. David Hawkins's work. We use it within LightWeb to kind of help people realize, there is a contracted state of being, which we call the void. And then there's that expansive state of being, which is source. Right. And the closer that we are to source, the bigger the legacy of light that we leave.
Absolutely. I would like to meet those 12 people who are vibrating at enlightenment.
So you can muscle test at any given time. So that's how Dr. David Hawkins arrived at these figures and these numbers. He used kinesiology, which he is actually one of the fathers of kinesiology. So muscle testing is how you can test what is the level of enlightened people on the planet at the moment. And then you can go up the scale and you can see how many people there is. I happen to have one of my previous mentors stayed a year in a Tibetan monastery in Tibet. And on the very, very last day, and I believe that this might just be one of these 12 enlightened masters that are on our planet at the moment. But on the very, very last day, he tells this very potent story. He gets called into the head monk's office because it's his last day. He's leaving the monastery, and the head monk says, what do you think? And he says, well, I'm so grateful for my year that I've spent here. It's been absolutely incredible. And I just want to say thank you, I'm so filled with gratitude and thank you. And the head monk says to him, I have a gift for you. And then he laughs and he says, well, actually, I have two. And, my mentor wasn't expecting anything. So he's like, oh, thank you. And my mentor tells me that the monk leant forward, took his hand out, put his hand through the top of his desk, like through the matter of the desk, obviously went into the drawer of the desk, but hadn't actually pulled the drawer out, extracted a crystal inside and lifted the
Wow.
hand out of the top of the desk and handed it to my mentor, the man that became my mentor later. And the guy's got this crystal in his hand, and he's sitting there thinking, am I tripping? This guy literally just stuck his hand through a desk. And he sits there and he's thinking, and he accepts the gift and he says, thank you very much. But he is shell shocked. He is absolutely shell shocked. And he's like, what the fuck did I just see? Because he's been in prayer and meditation for a year. And he realizes in that moment, he's just literally tickled the surface of what is possible in the human mind.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and he's like this. So it isn't until later he's on a train somewhere in deepest, darkest Tibet. And he thinks, wait a minute, the guy said he would give me 2 gifts and I got 1 crystal. So he's sort of sitting thinking, did I miss something? But then he realizes that the second gift was watching that man or that monk put his hand through the desk. And in that moment, how much his mind just blew open and expanded and was like, holy moly, like what we are capable of. Because he'd been taught in the monastery, that this world is illusionary. It's
Right.
not. And there was this monk in his total faith of this world is illusionary, with the ability to put his hand through solid matter, pull out something else that we consider solid matter and hand it to this guy. And I just love that story. I always, for me, it did exactly the same thing. To receive that story for me was like to receive a gift of realizing, like, this is how powerful the human mind is, that we can
That's
transcend
incredible.
reality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I that would be an amazing thing to witness.
So, and I feel like this is really what happens if we deepen this journey as far as it could humanly possibly go. We become like magic.
Yeah.
We literally be magic. We become like magic. It's, and we are able to start producing things that other people look at us and think, how is that even possible? It
Yeah.
challenges the laws of physics.
Yeah. I mean, I'm witness to that in my own life, you know. Sometimes I look around me and I think, how did I get here? Like, how did I create this out of nothing? Seems like. And
Exactly.
witnessing my practitioners doing the same thing. And we all have that ability. And we're not even scratching the surface of what's
No, we're not
possible.
even, if there's dudes on this planet that can put their hand through solid matter, I'm like, oh my God, girlfriend, we got work to do.
Right. I want some of that. Yeah.
Exactly. It's so insane, and I know one of my other who was actually one of my students, he was a Qigong master, and his Qigong master could light newspaper on fire by just using his chi and projecting his chi from the palm of his hand into the
Wow.
newspaper. And I've actually seen video footage of that. It's one of the craziest things ever. And you're thinking, this is the power that's contained within us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's limitless, and the majority of the people on this planet right now are not even aware of it.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to be in this time where so many more people are becoming aware. And I think we will eventually reach that tipping point to where then it's going to open up so much more
Completely. I feel
availability.
like we're in the flux of that now. Like it's like every day more and more and more people switch on. When I
Yeah.
moved house, I've got a funny little story, but when I moved house, we moved from there should kind of been a house in between the house we moved from and this house. But because of COVID, and then my business taking off in the way that it did, we moved from quite a small house to a really giant house. So we kind of skipped that step in the middle. And so when the delivery guys or the movers came, it was so funny, and they were like a bit of an upgrade, and I was like, yeah, just a little bit. And they were sort of asking me what I did and things like that, and I wondered if they were like, do this family deal drugs or something, because obviously it was such a difference,
Right.
like, well, I run an online business and things like that, but I work with spiritual things. And the guy goes like, what kind of spiritual stuff? And one of the other boys that was there, and I said, well, I do, I teach things like law of attraction and manifesting and things. And one of the guys goes, oh, I'm sick of that manifesting. My girlfriend goes on about it all the time. And I said, well, excuse me. I said, you're standing inside my manifestation. And his jaw just dropped, and he sort of looked around the walls. It was just comic. He just looked around the walls, and he sort of like that. He just think I better speak to my girlfriend about manifestation.
You blew his mind in that moment.
Or you opened his mind. Like, but there was this removal guy, and he's now, like probably went off to his girlfriend was already doing manifestation work. And he then obviously went home and was like, oh my God, I think there might be something in this, and that was really, really fun. But, it started to show how mainstream it's really getting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm surprised by that sometimes, how mainstream these things really are. If you go to Instagram or TikTok, there's
absolutely
young people talking about crystals and law of attraction, and it's exciting to see that.
I think that the problem for us, Elysia, is that we remember a time where you just didn't tell anybody that you were into the spiritual stuff.
Right.
And it's so accepted now.
Yeah.
But we still remember that time of like where people would really give you the side eye if you said that you did, you were into crystals or meditation,
right,
or anything like that, like people like that. I mean, I even remember a time where like people thought you were a little bit crunchy if you did yoga, and now it's like celebrities are all doing it, and it's it's so mainstream.
Yeah.
But I think there's that little part of my brain that goes there to be like, oh, it's not quite safe to say that out loud. Whereas the younger generation, they don't have that. To them, it's just cool. Let's talk about it. So I sometimes, when you're right, like, you see it on TikTok and YouTube and things like that, but sometimes when I see it and I was like, oh my God, this is so great. This is a great conversation. But then I'm like, and I'm seeing how many people are tuning into it. And then I have to sort of catch myself on and go, yeah, but the world's different now, Joanna. It's not that people think you're super strange anymore because you talk about manifestation or you talk about energy. People don't think you're like super weird anymore. Whereas we still remember that time where people did think you were super weird.
Yeah, for sure. And we both have kids in their 20s. I have two daughters that are in their 20s, and it's exciting to me, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future to see what this generation is doing, because they're at least my daughter and her, their friends and their communities, they're just so involved in social change, and they understand things that I didn't understand until I was in my 40s,
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like both of my children are really about conscious consumerism as well. They don't like going and buying fast fashion. That's something that they both avoid, because they don't want to add to the consumerism. They are more conscious about what they buy. They would rather buy quality items that will last a long time. I just remember being a teenager and just wanting a new top.
Yep, exactly.
And it's so amazing because I just feel like the consciousness, like even the consciousness of that, because certainly in my teenage years, that wasn't even in my consciousness. and the fact that they are
Yeah,
so
no.
awake and
Yeah.
conscious, you know.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that they're thinking that bigger picture, which is incredible. And but it is, yes, and my eldest daughter, who's my stepdaughter, she's literally baby witch, and my youngest, or my eldest daughter, my daughter, she's also baby witches.
Yep. 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 All
Learning
three of
all the
my daughters
things,
are.
into the moon
Yeah.
cycles, crystals, um oracle cards, all the things, and it's
Yeah.
lovely because it's a connection with source, and it's a
It is.
personal relationship.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. Like my youngest, she's almost 17. She is so connected and she does tarot readings. She
Mm-hmm.
works with the fairies. And if I really want an accurate reading on something, I will ask her above anybody else that's in my world. I even have clients that go to her for readings because
Amazing.
they've
It's so
experienced.
good. my
Yeah,
my eldest daughter, Ellen, she's very, very amazing with the cards, and very intuitive. Like it's well, obviously because you're using cards, it's intuitive, but it's like even the learning of them was almost like, just kind of like, how did that happen? Because it was
yeah.
just very off the cuff, really organic, and and they're brilliant. Her insights are incredible.
That's amazing. It's amazing to witness as a mother. It makes me so happy.
Me too, me too. I feel like there is definitely a shift on this planet, and that in a way is a true gift to this planet.
Yes. Yeah. And that, like you said, your ultimate goal is for your legacy to be that you brought more light into this world than you came in
Mm.
with. And that's one of the ways that we're doing that. Those of us who, have children or have younger people in our lives, we're doing that by passing on our light and our knowledge to them, and then they'll take it. It's like a relay race, they'll take it and run with it to the next step.
Absolutely amazing. I love that image. Yes, that's exactly. We're just passing it on to the younger generations, and I just some days feel like the younger generations they're running faster than we ever ran with it, and it's so amazing to see.
Yeah.
It's so amazing to see because we can really see that exponential growth of knowledge happening on the planet, which is beautiful.
Yeah, and it's happening so fast, like you said. It seems like it took a long time to get up to this point in the last handful of years. I would say for me personally, it felt like things were starting to really ramp up around 2017. And now
Yeah.
it's just like it's faster and faster and faster,
I,
almost
I
every
did quite a
day.
few interviews during COVID with big national newspapers and things as a law of attraction expert. And, during the first lockdown, Google saw a 400% increase on the term manifesting being Googled.
That is incredible.
Isn't it? So
Wow.
COVID itself is like the lockdowns and everything seems to have like massively accelerated
Yeah.
the process.
Yeah. Well, that 2020, my business actually doubled that year.
Yeah,
The impact, not just my business income, but really the more important thing is the impact that I'm having on the
absolutely.
world doubled.
Absolutely.
Yeah. People are seeking.
For sure. And I think we've been living in a world that's not been working very well for a lot of us for a long time. And I think, they are looking for something beyond, and it's now starting to wake up that they're not going to find what they're looking for in the outer world. They're going to have to look within in the inner world, and they need a guide for that because
Yes.
no one's been taught how to look inward. We've all been taught to find our solutions in the outer world all the time. And the solutions are in the inner world, and having a guide like ourselves that can help somebody connect to their inner world and have a deep personal relationship with source. I really truly believe that the work that we do is going to heal the planet.
100%. Yeah.
That's a beautiful note to finish on.
Mhm.
If somebody is listening to this, Alyssa, and they love what they've heard from you and they want to hear all about the sacred soul alignment and they want to dive into your world, where is your favorite place to hang out on the internet? Come and let us know, and we'll pop all the other links in the show notes.
Yes, well, I have a private Facebook community with a few thousand people in there. It's called Sacred Soul Alignment with Elysia Hartzell, and I would love for you to be part of our community. Not just myself is sharing. I pop in and do a lot of live healings and things like that in there. But there's some incredible people in that group aside from myself. A lot of my practitioners. I allow my Sacred Soul Alignment practitioners to share their offers inside that group. So there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of just fun, high vibrational energy in there. I'd love to invite anybody who that resonates with.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us on the Into the Light Web podcast.